Hello everyone, and this is my review for WWE Monday Night Raw on April 13th, 2015. And I'll go off and say that this was a mixed bag show, at least in terms of the main event storyline. Because there was some good, some really bad in there as well. But I'll get into that a little bit later on. I liked how they opened the show with the whole John Cena Open Challenge for the United States title, and I mean, his promo initially was relatively short. I can't really say it was good in any way, but it was short, and then they went into the match. I liked the little promo that Bad News Barrett threw in there as well. Basically him wanting to go after, basically him saying why wait to try to get back the Intercontinental title while he can try to win the United States title right here. That was a pretty good and effective promo, very short as well. The match itself was a really good match. I liked. I'm liking the fact that Cena's working with, I won't say the lower level talent, but the more up and coming talents now. He's not just in the main event scene. He's working with the younger talent to either help put them over in some way. Putting someone over doesn't necessarily mean they have to win the matches, but he's not sitting there burying them in any way, shape, or form. So I'm liking where they're going with this United States U.S. title challenge and open challenge and everything in that aspect. So we'll see how long they actually keep up with that and where they will actually go with it down the road here. And then the subsequent interruption with Rusev after the match was also relatively good. That was a good way of setting up the chain match in there, having him come out there and hit him with the chain. I thought it came off relatively well, and it did not necessarily it wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't necessarily great, but at least was effective enough to set up their match for Extreme Rules and give it a stipulation in some way, shape, or form. Next up, they had the Divas Battle Royal. Basic Divas Battle Royal, really short, nothing to write home about. Basically, they saved the good portion of it for after the match. So they have Paige win the Battle Royal to become #1 contender, and I liked how afterwards you get this somewhat of a heel turn, which eventually later in the show they fully explain and make Naomi go completely heel, and it made complete sense with how they did everything in this aspect. You saw the attack on Paige by Naomi, so you're kind of like going off, okay, why does she fully go off on this? And then they explain it later in the show. They didn't just wait till next week or something like that. They explained it later in the show with Naomi having an interview backstage saying, it's like, okay, why was there supposed to be a Divas Battle Royal? I've already beaten the champions twice. She should have been #1 contender right off the bat. And it, like I said, it just made complete sense. Really weird in the Divas division for the storyline to actually make sense in any way, shape, or form. So I liked where they went with that aspect, and they can definitely set this up for a triple threat or something down the road in there. So relatively good job with setting up a story for the Divas division in there, and we'll see where they go with this down the road. You had the and this is where I'll kind of start talking about the main event, because because they had both Seth Rollins and Randy Orton. They were supposed to have matches that night, and if both of them won, they were going to be able to pick a if either one of them won or both of them won, they were going to be able to pick a stipulation later that night for their match at Extreme Rules. The match with Cesaro and Randy Orton was relatively good. Obviously, they made it. They set it up to where they were trying to put Randy Orton in a more face-like situation and having the odds stacked against him. The DQ happened. It's like, okay, it looks like he wins the match, but now Kane comes out and makes it a handicap match, and then Orton still prevails in the end. I don't necessarily like the aspect that he prevailed in a handicap match against the tag team champions. It doesn't make their tag team champions look all that great, but in the end, it was a good way of setting up the odds against Randy Orton type deal with the Authority, and you know, that one was kind of mixed bag. I didn't like the aspect he went over the tag champs like that, but you know, it's set up in the main event storyline. You know, it kind of came off as maybe a little unnecessary in this case. So now they have Randy Orton being able to pick a stipulation later on in that night. You had some subsequent matches that didn't necessarily a lead into anything. I mean, you have Fandango out there having his match, and in all honesty, I think it wasn't completely necessary, but it seemed like they tried turning Fandango face by throwing out the old music and doing the whole old Fandango dance bit that the crowd came up with back at WrestleMania. I believe it was at the end of 28 for the night after, and basically getting rid of Rosa Mendez in there. Completely unnecessary. We'll see if they go anywhere with this, but it didn't really come off all that good there. You had, of course, Dean Ambrose had just one random match in there, but I liked how afterwards he came back and went after Luke Harper. It looks like they're going to be in some kind of a storyline program going into the very near future, and we'll see where they actually go with that. That one might be interesting. They do have at least some kind of an aspect or a start there with what Luke Harper did to Dean Ambrose, so they have at least a reason for Dean Ambrose going after Luke Harper at this point in time. The promo with Roman Reigns this week wasn't bad, but we're back to square one again, where we were before the Royal Rumble, where Roman Reigns is going up against, well, the Big Show. And we've seen this storyline before. I did like this segment a little bit just because of how Roman Reigns attacked, or not how Roman Reigns attacked, but how Big Show attacked Roman Reigns after the promo, looking like he was just going to be backstage the entire time, and then as Roman Reigns was leaving, he gets attacked. And, you know, that was at least a relatively good spot to go for in this case, but overall in the end, like I said, we're back to square one with this, where Roman Reigns is going up against the Big Show again. So seeing this storyline, they're going with it relatively quickly again. Don't necessarily like that aspect. So this leads me into the main event storyline for the night. I talked a little bit about with Randy Orton's match with Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. Now we're going to go into the whole aspect with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was supposed to have a match initially with Dolph Ziggler. Basically talked his way out of that match and made it to be where he was going up against Kane and how Kane was going to lay down. And, you know, I like this segment. I liked the segments leading into it. I liked how Big Show would come up to Kane and basically talk about why he should lay down. I liked how Daniel Bryan came in there and basically got in Kane's face, like, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to lay down? Or why are you going to go out there and lay down for him? And then the subsequent aspect behind the match with Kane and Seth Rollins. I liked how Kane was kind of fighting with himself, whether or not he was going to actually lay down. Was he going to attack Seth Rollins? I liked how he at least got a punch and a choke slam in there. They told this portion of that story really well. It came off really well in there. I liked, like I said before, I liked how he does get the random choke slam in there, but then eventually just lays down and puts Seth Rollins over him for the 3 count to give him the aspect, to give him his choice later in the show. It was some really good storytelling, and it can lead into something down the road with all of them in the Authority if they decide to, go with a face turn for the millionth time for Kane or Big Show or wherever they're going to go with that. So at least they told that portion of the story well. And before I get into the segment with Randy Orton and Seth Rollins later that night, I was going to go ahead and talk because, like I said before, with Dolph Ziggler, he was supposed to initially go up against Seth Rollins, but they changed it to Kane so, Seth Rollins could get the easy win. So Dolph Ziggler comes out, issues an open challenge, and gets Neville. Really good match. Makes no sense storyline wise why you're having two faces like this go off against each other, but I guess they're kind of going into an aspect of they're trying to push Neville into showing off what he can do, but not necessarily winning matches yet. I don't necessarily like that. I figured, I'm glad they're not going the usual route where he's just going out there and having squash match after squash match after squash match. He's going out there and having really good matches, but I'm not liking the aspect that they're not necessarily having him go over in any way, shape, or form outside of what he's outside of what he's fully doing. I'm wanting to see them actually push him into a storyline or put him over in some other matches as well. I'm okay with him going out there and having some really good matches, but they need to put him over in winning some matches. He just got up there. I like how they toed off how he was NXT champion, tag champion, everything in that sense, but I would like to see them actually start letting him win some and go over some of these guys. Now this leads me into the Seth Rollins Randy Orton segment, which was bad. Just bad on the aspect of you're going into an Extreme Rules pay-per-view. A pay-per-view where rules are supposed to kind of be thrown out the window. So I get the whole steel cage match aspect, and it makes sense for the two of them to have a steel cage match, considering the storyline before WrestleMania and now after WrestleMania. But why are they banning a move? Really? That's the best you can come up with? Ban a move? In any way that, banning the RKO is like, that's just, it's just not good. I don't like that for the portion of the storyline. It wasn't good at all. That's all I can really say about that. I did not like this segment at all in any way. Bad stipulation going into the actual pay-per-view match. I mean, good one with the cage, but bad one with, okay, let's just ban the RKO. It makes kind of no sense to really be doing that in any way. Like I said before, kind of a mixed bag with Raw. They had some good stuff with the storylines going in there, but they had some really bad stuff in there as well. Just stuff that didn't either make any kind of sense or were just overall bad in some way, shape, or form. So that's my review this week for Monday Night Raw, and I thank you guys for watching.